is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Ohio.
It has been a long time since the Reds were in Anaheim here at the Big A Angel Stadium. In fact, 2002 since the Reds last played out here. Tonight, second game of a three-game series, the Reds and the Angels here on Fox Sports Ohio. And hi, everyone, and welcome once again to Cincinnati Reds baseball. Along with Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Jim Kelch. Middle game of this three-game series, the Reds and the Angels here tonight. And you may not know a whole lot about the Angels, but Chris, two names you do know, Mike Trout and Albert Pujols. Let's talk about them and then start with Mike Trout.
Well, Mike Trout, I mean, if you haven't heard of him, you haven't played fantasy baseball, or you've been living in a cave for the last few years, because this young man is only 24 years old. Every year he's been in the major leagues has been an outstanding year. Last night was a typical Mike Trout night. 3 for 4 double, a couple of runs batted in, hit a home run first time up. And, you know, he's a guy that you have to be worried about doing all sorts of phases of the game. Tremendous defender, runs the bases very well, hits the ball the other way, and is just one of the toughest outs in baseball.
Meanwhile, Albert Pujols, the former Cardinal, Reds fans know a lot about him. Homered here last night, and it was a significant one.
Well, everyone he hits is a significant one because he's on the pace to be a record breaker. I mean, he's a young guy still in terms of baseball age, and he's hit now 586 career home runs, 47 of them, by the way, against the Reds. So every time he does a home run, it's worth a note. Last night, went ahead of Frank Robinson with that long bomb that he hit.
Let's talk then about Joey Votto. He's got some stuff on the line out here in this series, namely trying to hit 400 2 consecutive months.
Well, that's an amazing feat. I mean, we've been able to watch Votto to the point where we're almost expecting him to get on base half the time, which is about what he does anyway, because the guy's a grinder. He works as hard as anybody, and he really does not give away any at-bats or not. So he's got a couple of nights to get that batting average just up over 400. We'll see if Joey can do that.
Reds lost here last night 9-2. Try to bounce back here this evening. We'll take a break. When we come back, a look at the pitching matchup for tonight's game. Tim Adelman for the Reds, Jared Weaver for the Angels.
brought to you by Bank of America. Life's better when you're connected. And by Skyline Chili, feeling good. It's Skyline time. I'm Jim Day. You heard the boys in the first segment talk about how long it's been since the Reds have been in this stadium, 2002 to be exact. Let's check out our Elk and Elk storylines. It is amongst the longest droughts the Reds have had. As you look at the rare visits, Angels, Orioles, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Mariners. Not the longest drought, though. It's been since 2001 since the Reds have played at the Twins. But I asked manager Brian Price about this rare visit.
I know personally I was here in 05 with Seattle, and I haven't been back myself. And you'd figure somewhere along the way between, working for Arizona and Cincinnati, we'd find our way back to Anaheim, and haven't. And for the Reds as a franchise, not being back since 2002 is kind of a quirky schedule that omitted this opportunity to come back to Anaheim. It's a beautiful place to play.
And this stadium has undergone a few transformations over the years. We'll get into that as the game progresses, as we go upstairs with the guys that'll call it, Jim Kelch and Chris Webb.
Thank you, Jim Day. The Angels have taken the field. We're just about ready to get this one started. Reds, as we mentioned, loser here last night, trying to even this series, heading into the rubber game tomorrow. And let's take a look at the Reds lineup tonight, presented by Brian Price. Billy Hamilton will lead things off, then Zach Cozart and Joey Votto. Duvall, Phillips, and Schebler in the middle. Suarez, Peraza, and Rafi Lopez getting his first big league start as a Red and only his second big league start ever. And they will face the veteran right-hander, Jered Weaver.
Jered Weaver, you're right, is a veteran right-hander. He's been around a long time, and he's had such a successful major league career. Win-loss record, 147 wins against 92 losses. And even though the numbers that you see this year, 9-11 with a 5.3 earned run average, his career earned run average is right at 3.5. So one of the dominant right-handed pitchers in all of baseball. He's lost a lot on his fastball. He's given up a lot more home runs. He's not striking out nearly as many batters as he used to. But yet, he's one of the best competitors still around. So he hasn't decided whether he's going to retire or not. But he's keeping his team in the ball game, and he beat the Blue Jays the last time he was on the bump.
He'll make his 26th start, as Chris mentioned, 9-11, ERA of 5.31. He has faced the Reds one time in his career, and that was a significant game because back on April the 1st, 2013, it was the first ever interleague game that opened the season. The Angels came to Great American Ballpark, played in the National League to start the season that year. They won the game 3-1. The game went 13 innings. He was not involved in the decision of that game. He gets Billy Hamilton to lead it off here tonight.
What you're going to see out of Jered Weaver tonight is a fastball that is at 80, 81, maybe as fast as 83 miles an hour. So don't try to correct anything on your TV set. But what he will give you is a lot of this stuff, off-speed stuff, overhand breaking ball, sidearm breaking ball, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You talk about a guy that is performing now on fumes and guile. It's Jered Weaver.
You made an interesting point. You said his strikeout numbers aren't what they used to be because he used to be a big strikeout guy. He gets a ground ball here to third, handled by Jeffrey Marte to get this game started. Take a look at the Angels defensive setup, brought to you by your Ford dealers. They'll line up like this. Nick Buss is out in left field. Mike Trout, the center fielder. Cole Calhoun in right. The infield is Marte at third. Simmons at short. Second baseman is Pennington. Over at first is C.J. Cron. A battery of Jet Bandy and Jered Weaver. Here's Zach Cozart DHing in tonight's game. He had to take over at shortstop last night for Jose Peraza when he was hit in the jaw, the left jaw area, the right jaw area, I guess, diving back into first base on a pickoff play in the third inning. Hit by Matt Shoemaker, who had a very nice start for the Angels last night.
Actually, it was a ball that was a pickoff throw that was a good throw, but it was not gloved by the first baseman, C.J. Cron, at all. Just ticked off the edge of his glove and went right into Peraza's face.
Cool on an off-speed pitch is Cozart. Going back and making the play is Jet Bandy. Cozart is retired.
You know, I'm not so sure there's a real art to try to hitting a pitcher who's only throwing just a little bit above the legal speed limit. But I can tell you this, one way not to do it is to slow your swing down to match his pitch speed. And that's what Zach Cozart did right there. That slow pitch coming in there so much, Cozart had to slow down to make contact. It'll be interesting to see here how Joey Votto goes about it.
Votto comes up there with 2 men out and nobody on. We've talked a lot about the fact that Votto trying to become a 400 hitter, trying to become the first major leaguer since 2010. That was Josh Hamilton with the Texas Rangers to have back-to-back 400 average months. He had 413 in July. Right now, this month he's at 396, so he has a little bit of work to do. He needs a minimum of 2 hits over these next 2 games in order to at least have a chance to hit 400 this month.
And you mean 2 hits in each game or 2 hits overall?
2 hits overall. He could go 2 for 4 over the course of these 2 games. He could go 3 for 5, 3 for 6. He could go as good or bad as 4 for 9 and still make it right to 400. If he can do that, he'll be the first Reds player ever to do it. Vada Pinson in 1961 had 2 months during the season in which he hit 400, but they weren't back-to-back months. Votto got things off to a good start here last night for the Reds. A 2-run homer against Matt Shoemaker. His 22nd of the year. Interesting, earlier in this road trip, we saw the Diamondback with the big shift against Joey. We do not see that here against from the Angels.
Well, you know, Weaver throws it so slow in there, it's almost as if Votto can pick his spot as the pitch is on its way.
This will be handled by Crone, who steps on the bag, and the veteran Jared Weaver has a 1-2-3 first. Here at the ballpark they call it the Big A, Angel Stadium, now in its 51st year of existence as the home of the Angels. They've had many names over the years. Here's their lineup that'll face the right-hander Tim Adelman tonight. Cole Calhoun, Mike Trout, and Albert Pujols, the top 3. C.J. Crone, Andrelton Simmons, the former Brave, Jeffrey Marte in the middle, and then it's Nick Buss, Jet Bandy, and Cliff Pennington. The face is 28-year-old Tim Adelman.
Tim Adelman made his major league debut about 4 months ago. Then unfortunately for him, he went on the disabled list. It lasted quite a long time when he pulled that rib cage muscle, a strained oblique. The Reds did recall him from a rehab start earlier in August and sent him straight down. Then they recalled him again, now making his second start.
He came within one pitch of completing 5 innings his last time out against the Texas Rangers. Then he gave up back-to-back home runs to Yu Darvish and then Ian Desmond, the loss to Lieb, and he got taken out of the ball game. So he's hoping to kind of right the Adelman ship here this evening.
Start number 7 for Tim Adelman. He gets Cole Calhoun to lead things off. Calhoun at 270 with 13 home runs, 59 runs batted in. He was one of the 5 Angels that went deep last night. He did that in the 4th inning. Calhoun brings a hitting streak into this game of 6. 28 years old. Hails from the town that we see the sign in all spring, Buckeye, Arizona. If you're driving out to the ballpark in the Phoenix area headed to Goodyear, you see the signs for Buckeye, Arizona. That's where he calls home. Mike Trout to follow, then Albert Pujols. Calhoun last night had 3 hits in the game. He had a single, he had a double, he had a home run, so he was triple away from the cycle. He's in 1 cycle against the Reds this year. In fact, there were any number of players for the Angels last night that found themselves in that position. Here's the list. This is from last night's game. Calhoun, Trout, C.J. Cron, and Jeffrey Marte all had 3 hits. All could have hit for the cycle last night. No one did. 12 of the 14 hits right there that they picked up in the victory here over the Reds last night, 9-2. Calhoun with a wave of a miss there to get this bottom of the 1st going.
You know, Adelman has a kind of fastball that if you measure by the radar gun, it doesn't do much for you. 91, 92 miles an hour, but it's got late life on it. And you see it right there, it just comes right out of his hand with some nice little extra pop at the very end. And he gets the 3-2 strikeout to start his part of the game.
Well, the batter will be Mike Trout. We talked a lot about Trout in the pregame show. On our stand-up prior to the start of the game, this guy 25 years old, and I don't know that you'll get an argument out of anybody if you say this is the best all-around player in the game.
Well, interesting, because if you ask some baseball people that, they will pretty much acknowledge that he is, if not the best, one of the best. But I like to ask different baseball people. I won't tell you what their names are, but one name that comes up that if I had one player to pick, who would you pick, Mike Trout or anybody else? And one name comes up as Jose Altuve as a guy that would be the equivalent of Trout. Now, Altuve doesn't hit for anywhere near the power that Trout does, but he does steal a lot of bases. He's very good at second base. He plays up the middle like Trout. Altuve a second baseman, of course, Trout a center fielder.
Off the hand, it looked like of Adelman. He looks at it as the ball goes on into center field, and Trout has himself a hit.
And you got to figure that with Mike Trout and Albert Pujols back-to-back, just being around Pujols is going to help Trout. That looks like a Pujols swing right there, taking that ball right back through the middle. Pitcher's reaction is just try to stop the baseball, even though you realize a bare hand against a ball that's probably going 95 miles an hour, usually not a good idea.
Now, Mac Jenkins, the pitching coach of the Reds, and Steve Bauman, the head trainer, come halfway out of the dugout toward the mound, and Tim Adelman waves them back in, saying he does not need their attention. Here's Mac. Here now is Albert Pujols. 36 years old now. We talked about earlier, hit a home run last night that was significant. It was his 26th of the year. 586th of his career, tying Frank Robinson for 9th on baseball's all-time home run list. He would figure to be the 9th player in baseball history to get to the 600 mark. Hamilton to his left will handle this ball. for out number 2. I mean, that's a heck of a punch right there, 2-3 Trout Pujols, isn't it?
It obviously is, and if you're pitching against the Angels and you see these two guys coming up back to back, what it really makes you do is you concentrate on the hitters that are coming up before them, because you always want a place to put Trout in case you get behind in the count and you really don't want to have to pitch to him a good pitch. Same way with Pujols. Trout's a little different though. He will steal a bag.
He has 21 of the stolen bases this year by this Angels team. That's almost half the total that they have on the season. They didn't have any last night. They only have 46 on the year. Trout has 21 of them. Tied for 4th in the American League in that category. This is C.J. Cron, the Angels' first baseman. It was Cron who was at first base last night. And that ball Chris mentioned earlier tipped his glove and went right onto the right jaw of Jose Peraza. He had to go see a dentist today, had a chipped tooth. They got that taken care of. Managers meeting prior to the game. Brian Price said he's in the lineup. They'll send him through batting practice, ground balls, etc., and see how he feels. Everything's okay. He'll stay in there, so it must have been because he's out there at shortstop tonight. Thinking Trout was going, they pitch out. Thrown last night, 3 for 4. He was on that list. He had a single, a double, and a home run. Potential cycle man in the game last night. Home plate umpire tonight is Laz Diaz. There's Laz. His partners Corey Blazer, Stu Sherwater. Jeff Nelson is at 30. He's the crew chief. Hammered into center field. Back goes Billy. Home run. C.J. Cron. I mean, he tattooed that thing right over the 396 mark. Cron hit number 12 last night. He gets number 13 here in the bottom of the first tonight.
Now you may have to add one more name to that list of bona fide good hitters in the middle of this Angels lineup, starting with Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, and now maybe C.J. Cron. 3 for 4 with a triple last night, a home run over the center field fence tonight on a 2-1 pitch. And really just coming back this year from off-season. He had off-season surgery last year on his wrist and just came back really off the disabled list not too long ago. And they didn't think that his power would be back yet. I think he surprised a lot of people with the punch in his swing.
Yeah, he missed about a month and a half with a fractured left hand. He's only playing in his 10th game since being activated. And he has really, really done well. Over 333. Here's Andrelton Simmons, the shortstop. He basically traded places in the offseason with Eric Ibar. Ibar went from here to the Braves. Simmons from the Braves to this Angels team. He's taken over their everyday shortstop job. And he shoots one out into right. Angels picked up 3 runs in the first inning last night. We've gotten 2 so far here. Look at the first inning action for the Reds this year. Great job scoring. Terrible job in keeping the opponent down in the first inning.
In other words, if you want to see a lot of action with this Reds ball club, you better be ready and in your seat in the first inning.
You gotta get out here, get your hot dog, get your beverage, and get in that seat early.
That's what I used to tell people when I'd pitch that night. I say, if you want to see me pitch, get there early.
Because I may not be around by the 3rd.
Exactly.
Jeffrey Marte, the third baseman. Still another one that was on that list we showed earlier that had the potential for the cycle last night. He had a home run in the third, a single in the fifth, RBI double in the seventh. Starts the game at 254 with 11 home runs. Marte only 25 years old, been up and down a couple of times between the Angels and their AAA club at Salt Lake City. Been up to stay since the end of May. He's filling in really for Yunel Escobar. We saw him play third base last year for the first time really in his career as a Washington National. He is on the 7-day concussion DL right now. They hope that he'll come back and play this weekend in a series at Seattle.
He can really hit, Escobar can. But boy, Marte really flashed some great defensive leather last night. He made a couple of plays at third base. Really one unbelievable.
That was the ball I think you're talking about, is the one that Votto hit.
A slow grounder that hit the third base bag, popped up in the air, and through all that, he barehanded it and put such a strong throw on it. He nipped Votto by a hair at first base, cost him a base hit.
Runner going. A little flare towards center field. That's going to drop. That's a fourth hit now of the inning for the Angels as Billy Hamilton gets that ball back in. Seeing hit to center by Marte. Simmons was on the move. He ends up at third. First and third with 2 out.
We saw this last night. If you may have seen that backswing follow through by the hitter, it went against the Reds last night. This is a big old backswing right there, and it got Lopez, the catcher catching tonight, Rafi Lopez, right in the back of the helmet.
I'm playing the first inning last night with Peraza's bat hitting the catcher. Took a stolen base away from Billy Hamilton.
Well, it did, because what happens in a play like that, if it's unintentional interference on the part of the batter, on a backswing, for instance, is the most common way, you just send a runner back to third base or to second base. If the catcher is able to get a throw off and actually throw the runner out, then no play is called at all.
Mentioned Rafi Lopez, who's just been up here less than a week, joined the team on this trip, making only his second ever big league start. He started for the Cubs late September 2 years ago at Milwaukee. Played in just a handful of games for the Cubs that year. 28 years old. Signed in May with the Reds after going to spring training with Detroit. Spent most of the year down at AAA Louisville. Runner from first takes off. No throw by Lopez. Stolen base by Marte. His first. Down on strikes goes Nick Buss. That puts an end to the bottom of the first, but a 2-run homer by C.J. Cron has given the Angels the early lead. here. He had a 1-2-3 first inning, ready to work here in the second.
Well, it's been an ongoing struggle for Jered Weaver to keep the velocity of his fastball up, and you can see he just hasn't done that. I mean, it is going down and big time, but the problem with that is that everything else seems to be going up, like earned run average, like the number of runs he's given up, the home runs he's given up, and so on. So right now he's really pitching pretty much on fumes. And the intensity out there. I mean, he's a very tough competitor, a young man that is used to throwing the ball hard enough to get a lot of strikeouts. But the thing about Weaver was never really his velocity anyway. 6 feet 7 inches tall. He's a side-winding right-hander that steps way across his body. Look at him the way he strides. He's going to stride towards the third base dugout. And he gives right-handers fits because he'd throw that fastball from what looked like to be coming from behind their left ear. And he always had a really good slider. In the meantime, he's developed a lot of other off-speed pitches to try to offset that loss of speed in the fastball.
He was a former first-round pick by the Angels back in 04 out of Long Beach State. Like he was a Golden Spikes winner.
He was, and he was a guy that was originally signed by Scott Boras. And before the draft, Boras let it known to be everybody out there that he was going to take $10 million to sign Jered Weaver. And for that reason, they thought that he dropped a little bit in the draft, although the Angels picked him 12th overall.
And they had some very good years here with the Angels in the middle of his career. You're talking about 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and even the following year, 2014, when he won 18 games.
Well, he's won 18 or more 3 times, and he's a 3-time All-Star. Every year he's pitched, with the exception of last year, Weaver has won double digits.
Dating back to his rookie year in 2006. A late strike call by Laz Diaz. Duvall got out of the box, thought he had drawn the walk.
Take another look at the motion of Jered Weaver. When you're that tall, there's a certain amount of deception. And big old over the hand curveball right there.
There's a fastball at 85, right at the knees, and Duvall let it go on by.
Second baseman, number 4, Brandon Phillips.
So the first strikeout of the night for Weaver is Adam Duvall. Here's Brandon Phillips. Showed you the note about Weaver. Chris mentioned it, 147 career wins out here. His whole career has been as an Angel. He is second on their win list behind only Chuck Finley at 165. Toward first and C.J. Cron. That is 5 faced, 5 retired by Weaver.
You know, a typical night for Jered Weaver nowadays is about 5 innings, maybe 5 plus. Gives up anywhere from 3 to 5 runs, usually not more, usually not too much less. But when you rank him in all-time Angels pitchers, first in winning percentage and second or third in just about every other significant category. So he's been around a long time, and he's been a very fine Major League pitcher.
He'll get Scott Schebler here with 2 men out and nobody on in the top of inning number 2. Boy, that one ripped by Schebler, by Pennington, who just could not get in front of it quickly enough to stop that rocket, and Schebler is aboard.
His brain couldn't tell his body to get in front of it fast enough. That's the problem.
Third baseman, number 7, Eugenio Suarez.
I mean, a humpback line drive that explodes right in front of the second baseman.
Schebler's now hit in 6 in a row. That's a career high for him. Let's get their first base runner, and here is Eugenio Suarez. Suarez at 248, looking for his 20th home run. He had 13 homers, had 48 runs batted in last year for the Reds, and a little over half a season. He had spent the first half of the year, first 2 months of the year at Louisville before the injury to Cozart. Gave him the opportunity to play every day with the Reds. And he's certainly done a better job since the All-Star break. 292 since the break for him. Hitless last night in 3 at-bats. Hit hard toward right field, but playable for Calhoun. Suarez is out, and the Reds finished here in the top of the second.
For the Angels, and he's in a pretty good position of getting mentored by Mike Scioscia, the manager. In fact, their relationship goes way back. Believe it or not, in 1999, Bandy was coached by Mike Scioscia as a 10-year-old in Little League. Bandy grew up in Thousand Oaks, California. The Scioscias were from nearby Westlake Village, and Bandy was a Little League teammate of Scioscia's son, Matt. But Bandy's claim to fame doesn't stop there. His father, John Bandy, was a bartender who entertained by tossing bottles around as he bartended. You remember the 1988 movie starring Tom Cruise, Cocktail? Well, he once served a woman, his father, Bandy's father, who knew someone who was looking to coach Tom Cruise with some bartending flair for the movie. They chose Bandy's father. Spent a few months at various locations around the world, and they say Bandy got his good hands, a good old dad serving up drinks.
How about that? That's a good story right there. Bandy's been the #1 catcher here with the Angels now since about the middle of the season, replacing Carlos Perez. .263 average with 8 home runs. 1 for his last 13 for Bandy. Pennington, second baseman, waits on deck. The Angels have taken a 2-0 lead on a 2-run first inning homer by C.J. Cron. Mentioned earlier, the Reds have not played out here since 2002. In that series, they lost 2 out of 3. And Price talked about it beforehand. It seems inconceivable that the Reds have not been out here since then. Last played the Angels in 2013 at home. Hamilton gets to the spot, and he retires Bandy for out number 1. Take a look at the Reds' defensive setup, brought to you by your Ford dealers. Duvall, Hamilton, Schebler across the outfield. Suarez, Peraza, Phillips and Votto on the infield. Raffy Lopez catching Tim Adelman. And you look back, and they, of course, were at Louisville the same time this year. He caught Adelman, did Lopez 2 occasions since the All-Star break down in Louisville. Always familiar with the work of Tim Adelman. Against the veteran Cliff Pennington here with the leadoff man out. Pennington, 32 years old. He spent a good deal of time this year on the disabled list. Well, a left hamstring strain. Former everyday shortstop in the American League at Oakland. That one got right by Pennington. 90 miles an hour by Tim Adelman. He gets the strikeout number 3. Reds fans, don't miss a special post-game concert presented by Budweiser featuring country music artist Chase Rice. You can do that for as low as $32. You get a ticket to the game, a Reds trucker hat, and the opportunity to enjoy the concert from the field. Purchase those tickets today at Reds.com/Chase Rice. Phillips going out, Schebler in, and Schebler will handle that ball. Calhoun retired for the second time, and the Angels go in order in the second. Jose Peraza will lead it off. We were talking about the injury that he suffered last night in the 3rd inning. Here it is.
Really hard to see from that shot. We'll slow it down for you. Right off the edge of the glove of the first baseman into the jaw of Jose Peraza. Chipped a tooth, and x-rays, no damage done, no concussion protocol was needed to be taken upon. And he was really going to wait until after batting practice today before he figured out whether he was going to play in a ball game. So tough guy, stays right in there and is playing tonight.
Nipping helmet on tonight. Also, he has the double flap going. That ball's going to drop for a hit, and Peraza is on to start the top of the third. What you may have seen on that replay from last night, the ball, as Chris mentioned, hit the glove of Cron, hit the cheekbone, it looked like, of Peraza, and then bounced up and hit Cron in the mouth. And he had a bloody lip.
Well, lob shot right there.
Served it up, if you will, out to right. Here's Rafi Lopez. There are those of us in the Reds traveling party in the media, when we heard the name of Rafi Lopez, those of us who have children, had younger children years ago, remember the children's entertainer, Rafi.
I thought you were just going to break into Down by the Bay for me.
You know, I was going to break into one of his other big hits that Reds fans will recognize, the Banana Phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is the writer and recorder of the Banana Phone. That, of course, was a segment on Reds radio for years during rain delays. Marty and Joe would take calls. Marty and Jeff took calls for a while, too. Lopez getting his first start as a Red tonight. He's appeared twice off the bench. He pinch hit last night in the 9th inning and grounded out. He also pinch hit in the 8th inning on Sunday in Arizona and struck out. So he's 0 for 2 here. He hit .213 with a home run at AAA Louisville this year.
I think Lopez came up earlier in the year. He was not activated, but I think Ramon Cabrera was questionable whether he was going to be able to catch or not. The Reds didn't want to go into a series with only one catcher. So they brought Lopez up from AAA, and he sat around, and it was determined that Ramon Cabrera would not have to miss any time, so they sent Lopez back.
Yeah, that was out in Denver against the Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
Lopez, Rafi short for Raphael, from Philadelphia, played at Florida State. His only other big league time, 2014, 7 games, 11 at bats with the Cubs, with a pair of hits and 1 big league run batted in. Runner going, and they've got him at second base.
Well, what a throw by Jet Vandy. I mean, he had a leap to get that ball. It was almost kind of a modified pitch out, which is you don't really call for a pitch out, but a pitcher throws it high anyway, and he got himself in position to throw the ball right on the money, and there the ball is waiting for Peraza to slide in.
Peraza caught for the 3rd time this year. Reds took a look at it on video. We waited for just a few moments, and Brian Price said, move on.
The way Mike Scioscia, and Scioscia's been here for a long time as a manager, he appreciates good catching probably than any other manager out there. Very fine major league catcher during his day. In fact, Scioscia really is the only holdover on this whole Angels ball club that the Reds saw back in 2002 when they last visited the Big A. He was in his 3rd year of managing. Scioscia was here with the Angels. Of course, they were the Anaheim Angels back then, so they didn't even have the same name the last time the Reds were in town.
They've had a couple of names, more than a couple of names over the years.
I think they've added a few cars to the highway, too. Every interstate system they have anywhere near Anaheim has at least 6 lanes going each way, and they are full. And I mean not just during rush hour either.
You're speaking, I guess, from experience over the last day and a half or so.
Indeed.
Well, the Angels were, when they first came into existence back in '61, the Los Angeles Angels. I think the name that a lot of people remember them by more than anything is the old California Angels.
When they opened this ball club, what, in 1960, or ballpark in 66 or 67?
Yeah. They had a short run as the Anaheim Angels. Now they're the LA Angels of Anaheim. Celebrating 50 years in this ballpark. I guess this ballpark at one time also was the home of the Los Angeles Rams. Team that's coming back out this way this season.
Could be playing in the Coliseum.
There's a unique feature of this ballpark right there. A rock wall, waterfall out in center field. Hamilton a hit last night, 1 for 4. Stole second base in the first, giving him 19 stolen bases this month. If he wanted to go on that, held up.
Looked like a little Joey Votto action right there. I mean, he's choking up the way Votto has choked up. He's making clearly a conscious effort to foul pitches off rather than try to put every pitch he sees in play. I'll tell you, it has really helped Hamilton a lot with the mentoring that Joey Votto has provided him. And of course, Don Long also. I mean, if you could get Billy Hamilton to shrink the strike zone to the size of Joey Votto. I know that there are calculations out there, and they're probably easy ones to do for some people, to figure out how many more stolen bases he would get with each 10% rise in on-base percentage. But it would be something to behold, that's for sure.
Weaver gets him on strikes here to end the top of the third. Bringing the energy feature, this is a good one tonight. Most consecutive seasons with 25-plus homers while scoring 100-plus runs to start your big league career. Pujols 6 times, Trout 5 times, and Joltin' Joe DiMaggio back in the 30s 4 times. Pujols and Trout with this Angels club. Speaking of, here is Trout. Start the bottom of the third. Trout, in fact, when he scored 2 times last night, was able to get to 100 runs scored, 25 home runs.
Had a chance before the ball game during the Angels batting practice today to talk to Mike Trout a little bit. And I can tell you that he is just an unassuming young kid having a great time playing Major League Baseball. I mean, he's kidding around, just like he could be on an American Legion field having the same amount of fun.
Peraza throws him out here. I know he and former Red Todd Frazier are good buddies, both from the New Jersey area.
And I can see why, because they both have very similar personalities. Trout, I said in the pregame that he was only 24 years old. In fact, he turned 25 just a couple of weeks ago on August the 7th.
Yeah, this is considered his 24-year-old season. Here's Albert Pujols. We always bring Pujols' name up when you talk about a guy who was an institution in one city with one team, but you have to walk away in terms of a big contract. I mean, he left after 2011. They had won the World Series. They won 2 World Series titles with the Cardinals. But after 2011, they made him an offer, probably a number of offers, but it wasn't what Albert was looking for. And in the end, he left St. Louis, came out here, signed a 10-year, $240 million contract. Contract that for Pujols runs through the 2021 season. He'll be halfway through it after this year.
So he'll be 42 years old when that contract is in its last year. And you have to figure that the Angels now, I mean, they're figuring, all right, 42 years old, even the great Albert Pujols isn't going to be all that productive, is he? So you got to figure that the money that they're paying him at the back end of that contract, they hope to get the production out of in the front end of the contract.
He's going to surpass his RBI high as an Angel this year. Right now, second in the league in that department with 103. The most he's driven in as an Angel is 105. He's had 13 now, 13 different seasons. And this is his 16th year in the big leagues, in which he has driven in at least 100 runs. He got under it. Billy Hamilton will come on. 2 out.
First baseman, number 24.
You mentioned he's DHing most of the time this year. Doesn't run overly well anymore. He's played 20-some games or so at first base. Two out now for C.J. Cron. Get that line drive home run in the first inning to give the Angels the lead. Here's a look at it. This was for Cron, his 13th of the year. It was a no-doubter. CJ, the son of a former big leaguer, former Angel, in fact, Chris Cron. Back in the early 90s, 1991, his dad played in 6 games here with the California Angels. Chased out there by Schebler. He's not going to get it. Votto went a long way as well. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Took over at first base really for Pujols in the middle of the 2014 season as the everyday first baseman out here. .26 years old. had that injury we were talking about earlier, the fractured left hand, would have certainly blown away his home run and RBI numbers. He rips this one toward right center. Hamilton will turn, and that's a multi-home run game. We're only in the third inning for C.J. Cron. Number 14 for him, and it's 3-0 in favor of the Angels.
The impressive thing about the home runs tonight by Cron are they're both into power parts of the ballpark. One to dead center field over the head of the center fielder Billy Hamilton in the first inning on a 2-1 pitch. Here on a 2-2 count, he just gets that low pitch and just elevates. That's a big man's part of the ballpark.
Talked about Adelman giving up those back-to-back home runs in his last start to the pitcher Darvish and then to Ian Desmond. He gave up 3 home runs total in that game. He's given up a couple here tonight now.
Might be better off not allowing him to get his arms extended.
Seventh multi-home run game of the career of C.J. Cron. Simmons bats with 2 out. Now he's a Gold Glove winner a couple of years as a member of the Atlanta Braves. Bounce one to Peraza here. Simmons retired. Angels finished in the third, but the second home run of the game for C.J. Cron has given the Angels a 3-0 lead. Episode tomorrow night. Amir Garrett took a long route to becoming a professional baseball player. Now he's one of the Reds' top pitching prospects. Outfielder Tyler Holt made his pitching debut last week, plus fantasy camp became a family affair for one family this past winter. An all-new Reds Weekly debuts tomorrow night at 6 with Jeff Piecoro and Doug Flynn right here on Fox Sports Ohio. 3-0 Angels. We head to the fourth. Cozart, who's DHing tonight, leads things off. High in the air, deep to left field. Buss going back. He will have room. 2 steps in front of the wall, right out in front of the bullpen area out in left field. Cozart, a bid for his 17th, comes up a little bit shy. Out number one.
Got under that one just a little bit. If you ask people that have been to this ballpark a lot to gauge it, is it a hitter's park, pitcher's park? It pretty much plays very fair. There aren't really any cheap home runs to be had, maybe down each line. But for the most part, the ball doesn't jump out of here, nor does it become a pitcher's paradise.
Here's Joey Votto.
He got down early in his last at bat, no balls and 2 strikes immediately before grounding out very weakly to first base.
Coming into the game, 9th in the league in hitting. And making a bid to become the first Reds player ever to hit 400 in back-to-back months, and only the second since 1900. The other was a guy who used to wear the Reds uniform, but did it as a member of the Rangers, Josh Hamilton, back in 2010. Votto rips one into right field. He is on with the 3rd Reds hit. And with 1 man out, he's aboard here in inning number 4.
You know, Weaver really doesn't have the stuff to get Joey Votto out. He just has to throw a pitch in a place where any hopes that gives Votto the best chance of getting himself out. Hangs that breaking ball right there and a solid humpback liner into right field.
Well, that's a start now for Votto. Today and tomorrow, the final 2 games of the month of August. Started the month at started this game this month at 396. Needs a minimum of 2 hits over this game and tomorrow's. Put himself at 400. Jamie Ramsey, who's on this trip out of the Reds Media Relations Department, did a little calculating. Gave us the breakdown of what Votto needs to do to get to 400. Duvall took a called 3rd strike his first time. Angels team comes in 57 and 74, tied for 4th place in the West with the Oakland A's. This is going to be the worst year record-wise in Mike Sosa's stint here with the Angels. This is his 17th year. He's a senior manager in the major leagues.
Mike Scioscia is the only manager of the Angels ever to have taken his team to a World Series, and that happened to be, coincidentally, the same year the Reds came back here in 2002. They beat the Giants 4-3 in that series. Darren Erstad was their best player back then.
Duvall cracks one towards center field. Trout going back. Gets to the spot, a step in front of the warning track. Hauls that long drive in off the bat of Adam Duvall for out number 2. Make sure you cheer on the man who's at first base right now, Joey Votto and your Reds, when they take on Yadier Molina and the Cardinals this coming weekend at Great American Ballpark. Series presented by Kroger. Catch all the action for only $12. If you'd like tickets, you can call 513-381-REDS or visit Reds.com. That series this weekend against the Cardinals. Night game Friday, mid-afternoon game on Saturday, a 4:10 start, and a 1:10 game on Sunday. It's part of a 6-game homestand that also includes the Mets, which means a return to Great American Ballpark for Jay Bruce. You got a feel for that guy. Things have not gone well for Bruce since he joined New York. sat out a number of games. He had a hit, scored a run today, but going into action today, he was hitting 163 in 24 games with New York. Hit hard towards center by Phillips. Trout is there to retire the side. Hit a man left. Middle of the fourth, 3-0 Angels.
Has gone through many transformations over the years. Built in 1966, it opened up to 43,204 capacity, and you can see the old stadium there, originally Anaheim Stadium, very open in the outfield. And then the stadium underwent construction in 1979-80 for the additional seating for the Los Angeles Rams of the NFL. They seated over 64,000 for baseball, as you can see, both configurations, baseball and football. Then the Rams left for St. Louis in 1995. Renovations began. They reverted the then 30-year-old structure back to a baseball-only stadium. About a $100 million renovation then, and it seats just over 40,000 now, and it is certainly a different-looking ballpark, but it has withstood the years. It's still a nice yard.
You know, when the Angels first came out here, they played in the West Coast version of Wrigley Field. AAA team used to play out here. They went from Wrigley Field. I think they spent a year or so at Dodger Stadium until this ballpark opened up in '66.
Well, ever since they went to the World Series back in 2002, they have been drawing big numbers. Here are the oldest ballparks right now currently in the major leagues. Angel Stadium in 1966 is the fourth oldest. Still very clean, kept very well, much like Dodger Stadium. But they have really packed it in here. This will be the first year really since 2003 they will not have at least 3 million fans go through the gates. They reached the high water mark back in 2006 where they brought in 3,400,000, but they're averaging 3.3, 3.2 just about each and every year here in a very populated Orange County, California.
Pretty impressive on a Monday night when your team is in last place that you can draw over 34,000. That's what they did here last night.
God, they came out here to see the Reds.
Ball 4, and the leadoff walk goes to Marte, the third baseman. First walk given up by Adelman. Leadoff man aboard. That will be Nick Buss. Strikeout victim his first time, Nick Buss. pick by Peraza and an out at first base. Good bunt laid down by Buss. Nicely defended by the third baseman. I said Peraza. Suarez. Out number 1.
You don't see much of this American League Baseball when you sacrifice a runner from first base to second. Mike Scioscia trying to play a little bit of add-on right here. You get down to the bottom of the order, you get a leadoff hitter on, why not push him over to second base and just play for one run at least until you can turn the order over and bring back your big boppers like Trout, Pujols, and C.J. Cron.
And they send Jet Bandy to the plate. Number 8 hitter, their catcher. Smokes that ball, foul down the line. Earlier start out here tomorrow, the finale of this series and the road trip. Game will start Eastern time tomorrow at 7:10. Reds live at 6:30. Sounds like it's a home game. On base one time last night, drew a walk. He was 0 for 3.
I'm just looking up the numbers on that sacrifice bunt because I thought it was somewhat unusual, but really Mike Scioscia is a guy that for an American League manager has embraced the sacrifice. The Angels this year are second in the league in the number of sacrifice bunts laid down. Only the Royals have more. They've got 31, the Angels do. Contrast that to how many the Red Sox have, who have the least number in the American League in all of baseball. 5 sacrifice bunts all year long. All year.
You're talking about almost 5 months worth of baseball. They're averaging 1 a month.
Red Sox, Athletics, Orioles, Tigers, Rangers, really, if you look at their low numbers of sacrifices, they simply abhor the sacrifice. Also detest it.
Billy Hamilton himself has 10 sacrifice bunts.
I mean, Straley has about that many, doesn't he?
Straley has 9, I think, yeah. Hey, Jim Day was talking earlier about this ballpark, some of the unique features of it, what it's gone through. They have something here that you don't see at a whole lot of ballparks. They have those suites at field level, right behind home plate. Really, they separate the 2 dugouts. It goes all the way around behind the home plate area. It's field level suites.
Kind of like Progressive Field in Cleveland.
Yeah. Slowly hit. This is going to be a bare hand pick for the second time in the inning. This one by Jose Peraza. Votto did a nice job to dig that ball out of the dirt, moving to his right. Bandy is retired.
A nice play by Peraza. Comes in very hard because he's playing deep right there, and he just keeps his eye on the baseball. The key to making that play is you've got to watch that ball right into your hand before you even try to think about making a throw, and Votto scoops it out of the dirt. Good job on both ends.
2 bare hand picks in this inning. One by Suarez, that one by Peraza. Pennington will roll this into Joey. He gives it up to Adelman. 3-1 on the putout. The Reds work around the leadoff walk to Marte. We are through 4. is brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. And by Cincinnati Children's, changing the outcome together. Just a reminder, Saturday, MLB on FS1 returns with a doubleheader. First, it's the Astros colliding with Adrian Beltre and the AL West leading Texas Rangers. And then Miguel Cabrera and the Tigers battle the defending world champion Royals. Action begins at 3:30 Eastern on FS1, or watch it live on Fox Sports Go. 4 innings worth of 3 hit, 3 strikeout baseball for the 33-year-old Jared Weaver. Schebler had a rocket and a hit into right field his first time. Tries to bunt and fouls it. They shift him here, although not as much as the Diamondbacks did. Remember, he laid down that bunt in Arizona, and it was a beauty, and he got himself a hit. Tried to do the same thing here.
He got so anxious on that, it was just one of those slow, tantalizing curveballs. It just never seemed to get to the plate. Had him jabbing at it a couple of times.
Schebler's base hit his first time, now gives him a 6-game hitting streak. Hard at Pennington. Schebler out number 1. Only one time now in 5 innings. The Reds had the leadoff man on.
I mean, it's really amazing watching Jared Weaver pitch that he's able to get big league hitters out. It just goes to show you that hitters, you know, they don't hit the radar gun. They hit what they see. If you have some deception, if you throw the ball in the right spot, if you mix pitches up speed-wise. The human body has enough flaws. The eye-hand coordination has flaws enough to make outs on pitches that you really should hit hard. He struck out 2. Actually struck out 3. 2 swinging, 1 looking. I mean, the closest you can come to describe Weaver is what you're going to see down in fantasy camp when the Reds fantasy campers get together.
He may not go as deep into a game as Weaver does.
I think so. I've seen Big Gig throw the ball better than this.
It's one of your guys?
Yeah.
Big Gig?
And that was after he had surgery.
And a couple of cocktails?
No.
That's all afterwards.
All after he iced from the inside afterwards.
Good way to put it right there.
Well, the slowest pitchers this year as far as average fastballs go, and Weaver's right there in the center, but the difference, of course, between R.A. Dickey and Stephen Wright, their main pitch is the knuckleball. So they've got the trick pitch, and Jared Weaver is living and dying by that fastball. Angels have to be delighted with what they've been able to get from him the last couple of times out. He beat the Blue Jays last Thursday, ended a personal 4-game losing streak for him.
He's a guy that's been able to stay in the rotation all year, stay healthy, which is something that the Angels have really had a problem with this year. And they've lost C.J. Wilson. He's out for the season, left shoulder surgery. Andrew Heaney, the guy that they thought was going to be a big man in their rotation this year. Tommy John out. Garrett Richards.
Top of the rotation type pitcher.
Yeah. Nick Tropiano, another guy that had Tommy John. They have 3 guys that had Tommy John that are out for the year.
Yeah, they've been really fortunate over the last few years, having not lost all that many pitchers to Tommy John surgery, but it all came up and got them in the same season.
And most recently, Houston Street, who had been on the disabled list for most of this month, going to have knee surgery, right knee surgery. He's out for the year.
So if you get all those pitchers back and healthy, and most of those guys that you mentioned should be back at some point in the 2017 season, maybe not ready for the beginning of the year, but you're going to get them along the way. You know, you all of a sudden make this team that can put some runs on the board into somewhat of a contender. They're very much like the Reds in that respect. where they were so plagued with pitching injuries that they really couldn't put a representative team on the field. That's the way the Reds were before the All-Star break. They played much better since, mainly because they've gotten better pitching, and of course some of the hitters that were struggling early have come around and hitting the ball hard now. They feel each other's pain, those two managers.
Peraza base hit his first time. Hit one off the end of the bat and drop it in front of Trout in center field here for another base hit. So 4 hits for the Reds in this game, 2 of them owned by Peraza.
Catcher, number 61, Rafael Lopez.
Hit it like he threw it.
He came up, 10 days ago from Louisville, the most recent time. He's been up and down 3 times this year. And since then, he has 17 hits and 36 at-bats. He's really done an over-the-top job. Here's Rafi Lopez.
You know, having watched Peraza play bits and pieces, spring training early in the year, sporadically when he was up here, didn't get a lot of starts, and then more recently playing every day, I can see now why the scouts were so excited about him. I mean, he just has a certain stage presence that he has, maybe, I don't know, the baseball intellect, you know, a second sense, baseball sense, if you want to call it that.
He's going. Here's the throw, and this time he is in there safely with a head-first slide. Thrown out trying to steal in the third. Second attempt at it here gets Peraza his 13th base.
Well, I'm glad he didn't shut it down just because the Angels threw him out the first time. He got a big jump that time and on a ball that bounced in the dirt. A much tougher play for Bandy, and Peraza gets a bag.
Second stolen base of the series for the Reds. Hamilton had one last night. Peraza's 13th here tonight. Here he went 9 for his first 9 without being caught. He was finally caught at home on July the 17th by Milwaukee and Jonathan Lucroy. Lopez out on strikes. Inning is over. Saturday when the Reds take on the Cardinals. You can do it for as low as $12. Thanks to Kingsgate Transportation, the first 25,000 fans will receive a Eugenio Suarez bobblehead. If you'd like tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/tickets. Reds fans in the midst of all these Angels faithful. Reds have been out hit 5-4, trail 3-0. Top of the Angels order, Cole Calhoun. He has struck out, he has flied out, he's 0 for 2. Mentioned he's from Buckeye, Arizona. He played at Arizona State. He was a Gold Glove winner in the American League out of right field last year, Cole Calhoun. Trout on deck, then Pujols. Last night, this threesome at the top of the order had 8 hits, 14 at bats. No on the appeal, according to Jeff Nelson down at third. Mike Trout waits on deck. Adelman, in terms of pitch count, still in a good spot. And he gets the strikeout here of Calhoun. Fans him for the second time. Leadoff man out. That'll be Mike Trout. I would think you have to put Trout. Yeah, here's a look. American League MVP candidates this year. Trout certainly in the mix.
Well, of course, the other guys are going to get a lot more attention because their teams are either in contention or leading the league or trying to make a run at it like the Houston Astros are recently. But Trout having an MVP caliber season, much like what you would say of Joey Votto last year. With the second half that he put together last year, he should have had some conversation about the MVP, but of course when your team struggles, oftentimes the vote lags behind.
Hey, the most surprising number of all those numbers on the screen there when we had those candidates up were the 22 home runs hit by Altuve.
Well, some people said he was too small to play, but those that have watched him since he was just a youngster, first year in the league, really got an idea that he was going to be a special player.
Boy, that thing is just absolutely scalded over the head of the left fielder Duvall. Hits the base of the wall. Into second base goes Mike Trout with his second hit of this game, a one-out double.
Well, Trout is essentially a linebacker playing center field. I mean, he's built like a brick house. And I mean, watch him take batting practice. He is peppering balls way back in left field and hits that ball. Thankfully stays in the ballpark. Chula in left field there at the fence.
Well, the Angels an opportunity here in the bottom of the fifth to add to their 3-0 lead. Pujols has twice tried Hamilton in center with no luck. Mentioned Pujols, 11 years as a member of the Cardinals. 328 average in those years. His numbers between St. Louis and here in Anaheim certainly different, particularly in the batting average department. 328 there, 265 here. He's second in the league in runs batted in. He's always hurt the Reds. 346 with Last night's home run is 47th career-wise against Cincinnati. Rookie of the year back in 01. 3-time MVP. Look at that, all those categories that he leads active players in against the Reds. Jumped from 2000. He was playing Class A ball in 2000, early in the year, to the big leagues in 2001.
Yeah. 24th round draft pick, right? Or 19th round, something like that.
Gets under it for Duvall. Out number 2.
First baseman, number 24, C.J. Cron.
Pujols was amazingly a 13th round pick in 1999 by St. Louis. 13th round. Going to be a Hall of Famer. Here's C.J. Cron. He has crushed a pair of home runs tonight.
Whoa. Taking a hack like he wants a third. You know, both the pitches that he's hit for home runs have been down in the zone. He looks to me like a hitter that wants that pitch down. Look how straight up he stands and holds that bat very high. Getting ready to drop the head.
Of action in the bullpen. Jumbo Diaz starting to loosen. Adamman will make the play. And Cron is out, and so are the Angels in inning number 5.
Tonight's greater coverage of baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. Louisville Bats, Hernan Iribarren, named International League postseason All-Star team. He's 32 years of age. The .322 average is tied for the league lead in the International League. Pensacola, AA, Rookie Davis was sent down to pitch in the playoffs. If you look at his numbers at AA, and they're very good. He did have somewhat struggles in AAA. And Blake Trahan, who impressed everyone in spring training, was named Florida State League Player of the Week. His numbers off the charts. Got off to a very slow start at high A ball, but he has since turned it on. And also Alejandro Chacin, as Billy Hamilton flies out. Led the Southern League almost the entire year in saves. He is a Southern League All-Star after being a midseason All-Star as well. 23-year-old. Congratulations to him.
He had a good group of guys and had very fine seasons. In terms of Iribarren, he's 32 years old. People wonder, well, he has a chance to lead the International League in batting. Obviously a postseason All-Star, as Jim mentioned. Will he get a chance to come up and be rewarded for the year that he has had in AAA? Well, those decisions will be coming shortly. Brian Price said before the game that there figures to be 2 waves of players coming up. One on the 2nd. And that's on Friday when the Reds, after an off day Thursday, upon finishing up this West Coast road trip, will begin a 6-game homestand. It starts with the Cardinals. And then once the AAA season ends, which is on Monday the 6th, I think it's the 6th. Monday the 5th is the last day of the regular season in the minor leagues. There'll be another wave of players that come up there.
I'm not really sure how many players to expect that would get the call to Cincinnati. I mean, why would you bring kids up who aren't going to play, number one? And if you think they're going to play, point to a position on the field where the Reds would try someone else who, other than who's playing there right now. You're not going to bench Votto. You're not going to bench Phillips, Cozart, Suarez. Duvall, Hamilton, or Scott Schebler's been told he's going to play every day.
Way off the bag down there at first is Cron, and Weaver does a nice job to get over there, cover the base. Actually, a couple of answers to what you're talking about. We'll take another look at this play.
I mean, they don't have really a bunch of catchers on their doorstep of being called up to the major leagues. Their best catching prospects evidently down in the lower minor leagues.
Brian said he was asked for a list of players that he would maybe be interested in having come up. He said his original list included no holes barred. He'd like to see, he didn't say names, he didn't say numbers. He said that list has been pared down. And the one thing that he has asked for is he doesn't want to be so short-handed that when you're playing teams who may bring up a lot of pitchers, for instance, who could pitch in a long extra inning game, that he would be short-handed because they don't have enough pitching.
See, this is where I really think Major League Baseball needs to take a hard look at what happens in the month of September. That maybe on any given night, if you want to have a roster with 28 players instead of 25, that's fine. But to expand your roster to 30 or 35 players and encourage managers to make unnecessary pitching changes, thereby delaying and prolonging games. I think that's going exactly against what Major League Baseball is trying to do, which is speed up games.
You know, we talked about that last year, and I'm in 100% agreement with you. That's going to be another hit for Joey Votto. And Joey making that bid between today and tomorrow to get his August average up to 400. He's 2 for 3 today. He's on with 2 out. I disagree with you 100% on that. Whether it be 28, 29, 30, no more than 30, I wouldn't think.
I mean, the teams that are in the playoff contention are there with a 25-man roster. So why change the rules? What other sport enables you to expand the rosters in the most important stretch of the season? It's been kind of a head-scratcher for me for a long time.
And part of the way that would conceivably work is you could still call up 7 or 8 players, but you would only have 5 of those extra ones active. And so, for instance, starting pitchers from the night before, 2 nights before, may go on the inactive list, and these other guys are active.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I mean, the dugouts become crowded. The clubhouses, although they're much bigger and more luxurious than ever before, become very crowded. hitting time becomes at a premium, especially when you're on the road. You're not allotted a whole lot more hitting time, so guys are crammed into trying to get the into the cage time. I think that it's an exercise. Yeah, it's just a strange thing.
That ball has 3 players chasing it. It's the second baseman, Pennington, who got over there and makes the catch. Reds leave their 4th runner, still scoreless in this one. Around the world compete for a chance to challenge the pound-for-pound best fighter in the UFC, Demetrious Johnson. The Ultimate Fighter, Team Benavides versus Team Cejudo. Tournament of Champions starts tomorrow. That's tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, only on FS1. Bottom of the 6th inning. Andrelton Simmons will lead things off. He hit back in the 1st, grounded out to end the 3rd his last time. Talked about Simmons winning back-to-back Gold Gloves, 2013 and 2014 with the Atlanta Braves. One into left field, and that's a leadoff base hit. Second time that the Angels have had their leadoff man on.
Number 19, Jeffrey Martinez.
Tim Adelman has not pitched all that bad of a game at all. He's gone 5 innings, has given up 7 hits now. Here, one of those in the 6th. But all the damage has been done by the home run ball. A 2-run shot in the 1st, a solo shot in the 3rd. He's down 3-zip.
Well, the only time he's gone past 5 innings in a big league game is that initial big league start, his debut game at Pittsburgh, way back on the 1st of May when he went 6. Allowed 2 runs, 3 hits.
And that's why you got Jumbo heating up.
He was up last half inning, and he's up now. Adelman at 89 pitches. Marte has singled, walked, stole a base. Toward the hole, cut off by Peraza. Nicely done there, and a good turn by Phillips. I mean, he caught that and got rid of it in a hurry. We don't often see that from Brandon Phillips, but he really got the job done that time.
Well, a really good play by Suarez. Watch him come in here and get this ball before it takes one extra hop. If it takes the extra hop, the Reds don't get the double play. Certainly not an automatic 5-4-3 double play, not with as softly as it was hit. And boy, Suarez just seems to be getting more and more comfortable at third base every day.
Yeah, first 2 or 3 months of the year, I mean, people were up in arms about his defense down at third. This ball going to be caught by Duvall out in left field. Buss retired, and thanks to the double play, 3 batters and out in the 6th go the Angels. Honda game summary as we enter the 7th inning of this game. Offensively, it's been C.J. Cron. Pair of home runs for him. That one in the 1st inning, a 2-run shot. This one came in the 3rd inning, went into right center field. 7th career multi-home run game for C.J. Cron, accounting for all the Angels' runs. And from a pitching standpoint, Jared Weaver. Not had a very good year overall, but tonight, 6 innings of no-run, 5-hit baseball with 5 strikeouts. Through 6, a 3-0 Angels lead. Our Honda game summary. Change for the Angels defensively. Caleb Coward is now at third base, replacing Jeffrey Marte. Phillips leads it off. Did a nice job of turning that double play in the bottom of the 6th. He gets it started here in the 7th. 0 for 2 tonight for Brandon after a hitless night last night, so he's 0 for 6 in the series. Hasn't had a hit since he homered in the 2nd inning Sunday in Phoenix. Pennington, second baseman, goes out in the shallow center and makes that play. That's out number 1.
Right fielder, number 43.
Jared Weaver has not pitched a game yet this year in which he has not given up a run, except for one, when he pitched a 9-inning shutout against the Oakland A's. That was back on June the 19th. And he's doing it really in style tonight.
He only had 1 game since that game Chris is talking about at Oakland. Only 1 game since then. That was the 19th of June that he's gone 7 innings.
Well, tonight he's had 15 first pitch strikes. He's had 8 times he's had an 0-2 count. And only twice has he gone 3 balls on a hitter. So the key for Jared Weaver tonight is simply throwing strikes.
Of course, he's following in the footsteps of his older brother Jeff Weaver, who was a major leaguer for 11 years. In fact, the two of them were teammates for 1 year here in Anaheim. Base hit going the other way by Scott Schebler, bounces all the way into the corner, and Schebler going to end up at second with a 2-base hit.
It's a smart bit of hitting right there by Schebler. I mean, you know, he came up, hit a walk-off home run, welcomed him back to the team, and then he went into a horrible slump. But he's really swinging the bat much better recently. Boy, he likes that high pitch. He takes a high fastball that's really out of the zone, more like chin high, and laces it down the left field line.
Second time that the Reds have had in the last couple of innings a runner to reach second base. Only their second one actually in the game. They had Peraza at second in the 5th. Now they get Schebler at second here in the 7th. Here's Suarez. He's lined out and struck out. Talking about Weaver's brother Jeff, they were teammates here in Jared Weaver's rookie year, 2006. He spent most of his years with the Tigers. Career ended back in 06 for him, and his brother's career began. High and deep into left field by Jose Peraza, pardon me, by Suarez, and the Reds are on the board. 20th of the year for Suarez. Schebler scores in front of him, and the Reds are right back in this thing at 3-2.
Shortstop, number 9, Jose Peraza.
Well, look at the reaction by Jared Weaver. I mean, he just looks straight down, doesn't even want to follow the tracking of that ball, although Suarez will. He knew it when he hit it. And so do the boys in the Reds bullpen.
So the 20th a year for Eugenio Suarez. Reds had a 2-run homer in the 1st inning yesterday by Votto, and get a 2-run homer in the 7th inning here tonight. Now it's Peraza who's 2 for 2. Weaver's given up 32 home runs this year. That's the second most in the American League, and it's a career worst for him.
Well, last year saw his season have a career low in wins, tied for a career high in losses, and a career high earned run average. And he's been peppered by questions really all year long. Is this going to be your last year? Are you going to retire? Well, Weaver at 33 years old is looking around at other 33-year-olds who are signing big-time contracts. Says he has not decided yet. He's going to take the off-season off and, you know, work out, get stronger, and see if he can't regain a little bit on his fastball. There's 87. That is the fastest pitch he's thrown in quite a long time.
He's at the end of a contract, 5 years that paid him $85 million. Never played for any other team other than the Angels in the big leagues. Lofted down the right field line. That's going to be a 3-hit game for Peraza, and the Reds have the tying run on with 1 out here in the 7th.
Wonder how long a leash he will have out there, and looks like not long at all with Mike Scioscia strolling out, looks like to make a pitching change.
Weaver kind of shaking his head in disbelief. He'll take the ball from the veteran. Get it where it's pitched.
Well, smart hitting is really what has run him out of the game. One by Schebler, one by Peraza, hanging breaking ball to Eugenio Suarez. And the Reds are right back in the thick of this one.
Time for our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Mike Morin is into the game. Baseball Live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatsCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet.
Number 37.
Pitcher on is a right-hander, Mike Morin. M-O-R-I-N, 48th appearance of the year. 4.89 ERA.
Former University of North Carolina Tar Heel.
Ramon Cabrera is going to pinch hit for Rafi Lopez here. Go to first, and just getting back in time is Peraza. Morin whips out the big move right off the bat.
Now, Laz Diaz has come out from behind home plate, and he went a few paces down the third baseline with his hands on his hips looking at somebody down there. I don't know what that was all about. Peraza, a little bit shorter lead. Boy, he's got quick feet. Morin does.
6 in the third innings for Jared Weaver. 2 runs, 8 hits. Cabrera pinch hitting here. He had a pair of hits last night. On the year, Cabrera comes into this game hitting .244 with a homer and 17 runs batted in. He's 1 for 8 as a pinch hitter. Batting here for Lopez will take over behind the plate. Last night he started, it was his 5th consecutive game started. Tucker Barnhart still coming back from that right hand injury that has not forced him to go on to the DL. If he had to catch right now, he could catch. It's gripping the bat that is more of a problem than catching or throwing. It's a right hand. Two and 0. 2-run homer in the first by the Angels, C.J. Cron. Another shot in the third by Cron. 13 and 14 now on the year for him. Gave the Angels a 3-0 lead after 3. Stayed that way till the 7th. There's Barnhart. Reds are hoping that he'll be back this weekend against the Cardinals.
Morin, one of those college pitchers that pitched for a big-time program with the Tar Heels in North Carolina, but throughout his collegiate career, he was primarily a reliever. In fact, once he signed a pro contract, he never got another start. Was the main closer for the Tar Heels in 2012. That was the year that he was drafted, 12th round. He saved 19 games for him that year. Appeared in 47 games last year. This is game number 48 for him this year.
Borderline strike. Laz Diaz gives that call to Morin. Cabrera disagrees, and it's 2-2 now.
I think they will agree to disagree.
Lee Hamilton waiting on deck. Well, double the other way by Schebler. He went up and got that ball. Really did a nice piece of hitting to get it into left field. Then the home run by Suarez over the bullpens out in left. That's right back in this thing. Ball 3.
One of the reasons why Cabrera makes sense for a pinch hitter in this spot is that you've got the right side of the infield more open with the first baseman holding the runner on. He likes to hit a lot of ground balls, Cabrera does, on this side. So I imagine that you're going to see reverse coverage on the part of the Angels. You see the shortstop snug in there at second base, and the second baseman trying to plug that hole on the right side.
Reds now have Michael Lorenzen up and throwing in the bullpen. Time called by the catcher. Tim Adelman right now has turned in a quality start tonight. 6 innings, 3 runs. Runner going down the left field line, chased out there and caught along the wall by Buss. Good concentration by the Angels left fielders. He got right next to the wall, knew exactly where he was and made the catch.
Center fielder, number 6, Billy.
Now, he really busted it to get over there. The ball did hang up a while, but look how far he had to run, knowing he was going to be either right on the wall or reaching into the stands.
Play by Nick Buss for the second out, and now if the Reds are to keep this inning going, it's up to Billy Hamilton. Look at him right there now, right back on the end of the bat. You've seen him doing a lot of choking up. He's now down at the knob.
That's what 0 for 3 will do for you.
Got to change something. Well, he's had a rough road trip. He's 0 for 3 tonight, 5 for 22 now on the trip. And Billy stole that base last night. It was his 19th of the month. Equals a career high for him, stolen bases in a month. He did it in June of last year. He's now done it in August of this year. Well, the rest of this game and tomorrow to try to set a new career high for stolen bases in a single month.
You know, Morin has kind of an unusual set position, or I should say stretch position. When you come to the stretch and then into the set is the way umpires look at it. He looks like he gets ready and then moves a little bit more and then comes to his full set. As long as you do it every time and you eventually do come to a full stop, it's not a balk.
If you're an umpire, though, and you've not seen him work before and he does that.
Well, if you're the Angels, you warn somebody. Of course, they've seen him around. There's the first part of it, and then there's the second part. Now he's in set, and he can do what he wants. You can throw over to first base at any time during that whole sequence without coming set. But before you throw home, you have to come full set, a discernible pause, and then go to the plate. Stage one, stage two. I would imagine, though, if you're an umpire, you see this for the first time, you would be thinking, all right, that's odd enough that it should be called a balk. Have no idea if he did that down in collegiate baseball or even in the minor leagues.
The Angels have gotten the left-hander Jose Alvarez up and throwing. You know, 1-2-3 eighth inning in the game here last night.
Doesn't Morin know that that throw-over record is untouchable?
Yours at 17, is that what it is?
So I'm told.
Billy Hamilton, a bad at bat. He strikes out. And Mike Morin comes in and gets the job done. But the Reds get a pair on a 2-run homer by Eugenio Suarez, his 20th of the year. Down by a run at 3-2.
Mo Egger from 700 WLW for the Reds Fan Cam Friday night at the Holy Grail. It's your chance to answer Reds trivia, win great prizes, and you could be a part of Reds Live. The party starts at 6 p.m. Friday at the Holy Grail. Michael Lorenzen taking over on the hill for the Reds. Hometown kid, this has got to be a very special moment for him. He told us before the game his house is literally 5 minutes from this ballpark.
I would think that he is staying there while the team is out here in Anaheim. Played at Cal State Fullerton, went to Fullerton Union High School, born here in Anaheim.
With everything that he has been through in the last few weeks, the passing of his father, coming back to Cincinnati after being reinstated on the bereavement list, hitting a home run in honor of his dad, the same time or the same at bat in which he changed his walk-up music to honor his father, crying his eyes out around the bases, and now pitching at the Big A.
Indeed, it's got to be very special for him. He takes over for Tim Adelman, who went 6, allowed 3 runs, 7 hits. His second quality start. You know that Lorenzen grew up going to games here at the Big A. He followed that 0-2 World Series title team. Only World Series the Angels have ever been to.
Well, he'd have been a perfect age for it anyway. 10 years old, getting all fired up about his hometown team making the World Series. Playing against the dreaded Giants.
Ramon Cabrera, who pinch hits, stays in the game, takes over behind the plate for Rafi Lopez. Nice pitch, down and in. Bandy couldn't get to it, and that's out number 1.
Boy, after kind of getting that hitter looking on the outer part of the plate to come down and in with this pitch, I don't know whether it was a two-seam fastball or whether it was just Had a lot of run on a four-seamer, but wow. Forget about it.
Here's a switch hitting second baseman now, Cliff Pennington. Lorenzen's worked once on this road trip. He worked Friday in Arizona. And a 1-2-3 inning. 2.53 ERA for Michael since being activated and getting in his first game this season on the 24th of June. And I guess, like Raisel Iglesias, the jury is still out on him as to whether he will come to spring training next year as a pitcher out of the bullpen, or he will come to spring training vying for a starting job.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that all throughout his collegiate career at nearby Cal State Fullerton, he was a reliever, a two-way player that would come in from the outfield to try to close games, and did it most of the time. Had 16 saves one year, 19 the next. But in each of his 2 college career years, he only pitched in 22 innings. So if the scouts went out to see Michael Lorenzen on the mound, they better get there on the right day, because it's not like he had a scheduled start. And if you're looking at stuff and only velocity of the fastball type stuff, his fastball is much harder when he throws in short stints in relief than it is when he gets stretched out and has to do it over a period of time.
And we saw that last year, the end of the season. He worked out of the bullpen. That's the strikeout here of Pennington, 94-mile-an-hour heater. His mom cheering on her son. That Reds jersey on, she's geared up. He changed jersey numbers in the offseason. You see Mom wearing his jersey number from last year, 5-0. Make sure he switched to 21. More heat there to Cole Calhoun, who's fanned twice tonight. She's having a ball tonight here, isn't she? Now all of a sudden in the bottom of the 7th. Rocketed out to left field. Duvall on the run, and he gets to the spot in front of the warning track, makes the catch, and Lorenzen turns in a 1-2-3 7th, much to the delight of his mom. Zach Cozart will lead things off here in inning number 8. Mike Morin, who came on, retired the 2 batters he needed to get in the 7th inning, stays in the game. He gets Cozart, Votto, and Duvall. Zach tonight 0 for 3. Finds himself quickly in the hole here. No balls, 2 strikes. That went right into the booth off to our right. Would have been a pretty good catch over there. Spanish radio.
Yeah.
Jose Mota catch that ball?
No, he did not, but he would be capable of doing it.
Right.
I'm not sure about our stage manager, Alan Leventhal, whether he would be capable or not, but our normal guy up here in Los Angeles, John Reynolds, also known as JR, who couldn't make it tonight because he's working on the set as the baseball consultant to the new Fox series that is coming out. It'll be out September the 22nd, called The Pitch. And they've hired JR to be their official baseball major domo advisor. So we wish him luck on that. They say that show is going to be really, really a great, entertaining show.
I've seen the previews of it. It
Yeah.
looks good.
Sure does.
JR is their baseball consultant. Now, golf, I could see that.
Man of all sports.
Cozart hanging in there after getting down 2 quick strikes. 33,042 here tonight. 33,042 on this Tuesday evening. Back in Cincinnati early Wednesday morning. Again tomorrow, finale of this series and the road trip. Game will start at 7:10 Cincinnati time, 6:30 with Reds Live. Brian Price asked today about Homer Bailey. He was originally scheduled to start on Saturday at home against the Cardinals. He said that spot has turned into a TBD or TBA, however you like to put it. To be announced, to be determined as to whether Bailey goes or not. Tendinitis in his right bicep. He pitched only the 1 inning on Sunday at Arizona. Strikeout looking of Cozart by Mike Morin. Votto due up. And the new pitcher, the lefty Jose Alvarez, will come into the game for the Angels.
Copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Cincinnati Reds and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Votto 2 out of 3 tonight means he's up over right now, over the 400 mark in the month at 404. Getting the left-hander here, Jose Alvarez. Votto trying to become the first player in Reds history to hit 400 in back-to-back months. No Reds player has hit over 400 in back-to-back months since at least 1900. Josh Hamilton, the last to do it in the big leagues with the Rangers. Again, Veda Pinson did it, but he did it in 2 different months, not back-to-back. Votto quickly gets himself in the hole here against a left-hander Alvarez, who has not done particularly well at all against lefties this year. Hitting over 300 against him, but he does a heck of a job there to get Votto on 3 pitches. Here comes Mike Scioscia immediately back out of the dugout. Alvarez does his job, and on 3 pitches takes care of Joey Votto. He will leave. 4th pitcher of the game and the 3rd pitcher of this inning will enter for the Angels, the former Red J.C. Ramirez. Champion Club boxes. This unique hospitality area offers outside seating in blocks of 4, 6, or 8. Enjoy access to an outdoor bar, all-inclusive food, and non-alcoholic beverages in the Champions Club, plus much more. Purchase your tickets today by calling 513-765-7600 or visit reds.com/groups. About the former Red J.C. Ramirez into the game here in the top of the 8th with 2 out, nobody on.
Well, he spent some big league time this year with the Reds. They invited him to spring training as a minor league contract invitee. Reds called him up 22nd of April. And then when he was put on the waiver wire towards the end of June, the Angels picked him up, and here he is in the major leagues pitching against his old team.
He's done much better with the Angels than he did with the Reds. 6.40 ERA with Cincinnati, 3.38 ERA out here. Really, he's pitched better out here than he ever has in his big league career.
Well, he never lacked for arm speed and stuff. It was a matter of zip code for JC. Really nice young man.
Back-to-back pitches at 99 there by J.C. Ramirez. They're really asking him now to pick up the slack from Cam Bedrosian, who has a blood clot in his upper right arm. He was having a terrific year, went on to disable us earlier this month. I'm not sure what's going to happen as to whether he's going to come back and pitch or not this year. Turns that one around and sends it back up the middle for Adam Duvall. His first hit of the night. The Reds have the tying run on with 2 out here in the 8th.
Looked like he had Duvall really on the defensive, throwing that fastball up around 100 miles an hour. Duvall barely getting around to foul him off, and then dropped that splitter on him at 89 miles an hour, and because he got it up in the air a little bit, Duvall was able to center it.
So here's Phillips. Brandon tonight 0 for 3. Morin started the inning, got Cozart looking. That one headed up the middle, and that's a base hit by Phillips. Duvall will move on down to second base, and so the former Red J.C. Ramirez greeted with back-to-back hits here in the top of the 8th inning. First by Duvall, now by Phillips.
Right fielder, number 43, Scott Schebler.
That base hit may have been a product of the shift right there. They had the shortstop playing way around in the hole towards third base, opened up the entire up the middle for Brandon Phillips. I mean, for a guy that's throwing 99 miles an hour, are you really going to play him the pull?
Reds had the tying run at first base in the 7th in the person of Peraza after the 2-run homer by Suarez. Now they have the tying run at second base, and Adam Duvall. Phillips at first, 2 out for Schebler. 2 for 3 tonight. Cheat Simmons up the middle. Strike 1. Strike 2.
Now they're going to have a little meeting on the mound right there, because that last pitch, that splitter, it looked like Schebler was on that a little bit better.
Ramirez 22 strikeouts in 32 innings with the Angels. Did he go? He did. On an appeal. Looked like Schebler may have held up. Jeff Nelson, the third base umpire, rings him up there, and so the Reds leave 2 on here in the 8th. Fox Sports Ohio has been brought to you by Kroger. Stop by your neighborhood Kroger to save big store-wide. Great food, low prices at Kroger. And by Toyota. For over 30 offers, visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. Michael Lorenzen, who had a 1-2-3 seventh inning, back to work here in inning number 8. Reds down a run 3-2. They had a chance in the 7th. Tying run at first base with 1 out. Michael Morin came in, retired pinch hitter Cabrera, and then Hamilton. There's a drive into right center field, way up off the wall. And here goes Mike Trout headlong into second base with his second double of the night.
Guy's an animal. I mean, really. A single in the first inning, a bullet Chula off the wall and left in the 5th inning, and this one opposite field.
So a 3-hit game last night and another 3-hit game tonight gives Trout his 30th double. Pujols, flare into right field. Trout will be held at third as Schebler comes up firing. Albert had flied out 3 times. Gets the base hit into right field here.
First baseman, number 24, C.J. Cron.
Pinch runner out of the dugout for the Angels will be Rafael Ortega. Who will run for Pujols.
Yeah, you can just tell the way that Albert is running, and that's Mike Trout going around third, but the way Albert is running now at 36 years old, Father Time is catching up to him a little bit, but the last skill to leave you is the ability to hit. Reds bringing the infield in.
Trout at third and the pinch runner Ortega at first base. He started in left field last night.
He started moving to second base too on that throw over by Lorenzen. They may have had something on right there.
There's Ortega. Strike 1 to C.J. Cron.
Boy, this is, if you're Michael Lorenzen right here, if you can muster up a strikeout pitch to Cron here in this at bat, you may be able to get out of the inning with nothing.
One ball, 2 strikes. Home runs have accounted for all the runs in this game. 2-run shot and a solo home run by the man at the plate now, Cron. 2-run blast by Suarez on the red side. Andrelton Simmons waiting on deck. Go to first and get the out. Trout stayed put. Down to second base goes the pinch runner Ortega. First out of the inning that takes away the potential double play ball. Reds will keep the infield in now for Simmons. Here comes Brian Price.
And this is really more or less the talk strategy. This is not a pitching change trip to the mound by Brian. He's going to come out there and say, all right, here's the deal right here. Maybe he is indecisive about perhaps if Lorenzen gets behind in the count to the hitter Andrelton Simmons, they go ahead and walk him and set up a force play double play. Where he wants the infield to play. Laz Diaz has a little meeting after Brian leaves.
They have 30 seconds. When he leaves the dugout till he gets back to the dugout.
Boy, if you're going to miss, that's not a bad spot at all. Right in under the hands. Look at the reaction he gets from Simmons. 97 under the hands. Won't be leaning out over the dish now.
Simmons has a hit to right and a hit to left tonight. And another hit to right. One run will score. Other runner being held at third. Votto cuts off the throw coming in from Schebler. It appeared to get in on the hands of Simmons, who did a nice job of shooting it out to right.
Well, it did, and it was a good pitch by Lorenzen, but you don't always get a good result from a good pitch. Simmons gets jammed and finds a little green space.
3 hits in the inning mean another run. Now a 2-run lead by the Angels at 4-2. Caleb Coward, a switch hitter, bats for the first time in this game. Coward started last night at second, ultimately moved over to third. He went 0 for 4. Hitting .250 in 11 games here with a homer. 3 runs batted in. Pretty good year at AAA Salt Lake City this year. He hit .280. To Phillips. Gets a tag, shuffle on, got him, double play. Just in the nick of time, Phillips put the tag on the runner Simmons. Gave it up to Votto to get the double play. And the Reds hold the Angels to 1 in the bottom of the 8th. For every game on Fox Sports Ohio, that's with Reds Live pregame presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Action tomorrow will begin at 6:30 with Reds Live. Brandon Finnegan will be on the mound in that game, and what a performance Finnegan had his last time out against the D-backs.
12 strikeouts. And you know what? And I wouldn't be surprised to see him repeat, maybe not 12 strikeouts in 6 innings, but have another good outing because he's got a newfound pitch. That changeup of his that he's been struggling with on and off all year long seems to have all of a sudden become a dependable pitch for him. So we'll see if he's able to control that baby when he pitches tomorrow night against Ricky Nolasco.
Former Twin, they acquired him at the trading deadline, Ricky Nolasco. Here's a bunt now to get the 9th inning started, and they've got him at first base.
Wow!
What about Salas right there? Good stretch by Crone on the receiving end.
I thought this was just a base hit all the way. Plants, picks, throws, out.
So 1 pitch, 1 out on a beautiful defensive play by the pitcher, Fernando Salas, and they just do get Suarez at first base.
You know what makes that even more impressive for a pitcher to do that? Pitchers never practice that. You practice fielding ground balls coming right back to you up the middle, covering first base. But you don't practice one-handed, off-balance throws.
Salas, the former Cardinal turned Angel a few years ago, is 5 for 10 in save chances for the Angels this year.
If I'm Fernando Salas, I've got that little loop ready on my phone anytime anybody wants to see it, or even if they don't want to see it. They're looking at it.
Reds down a pair. He's gone 3 for 3 in save opportunities, Salas, since Houston Street went on the disabled list, including a save on Saturday, his last time out in Detroit, with a 1-2-3-2 strikeout inning against the Tigers. That's going to be a base hit for Peraza, his 4th hit of the game. It's going to go all the way to the wall. He's got himself a 1-out double, and the Reds will bring here in the 9th the tying run to the plate.
Boy, how big is that play by Salas now? This probably would have scored a run had Salas not made such a superb play on the bunt by Suarez. 4 hits for the number 8 hitter of the lineup. Not bad at all.
That ties a career high for Jose Peraza with 4 hits. Reds have a total of 11 in the game. He has 4 of them. Here's Cabrera. He was up there as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning with Peraza at first base and 1 out. He was the first batter to face Mike Morin. Came on to bat for Raffy Lopez. Hit the ball down the left field line, and a good running play out there by Nick Buss. Ripped into center field by Cabrera. Trout on the run. He'll get there and haul it in. Pretty good wood there by Ramon Cabrera, but that's out number 2. Reds down to their last out now, and Billy Hamilton.
As it stands right now, the play by Salas has saved the game essentially for the Angels. That and that extra run that they were able to push across last inning.
4-2 in favor of the Angels. Top of the ninth, 2 out. Billy in this game 0 for 4. 1 for 8 in this series thus far. Down the left field line by Hamilton. That is a foul ball. Close play, but a foul ball. The left fielder Bus thought it might have been fair. He got it, fired it into second base.
Well, you're not kidding. I think they're going to have that checked. I think fair foul is reviewable.
They're looking into the dugout. Brian Price.
I don't know how Jeff Nelson could have missed it. I mean, he was pretty close to it right down there. Brian Price is waiting for Bo Thompson to deliver a verdict.
Here comes Brian. He apparently got the word from Bo Thompson down below. He'll talk with Laz Diaz. Let's take a look at it.
We'll get the first look. Ooh.
Reds will challenge this. Laz Diaz, the home plate umpire. Jeff Nelson, the crew chief who made the call. Listen to the folks in New York. Now, if they overrule this, then it's up to the umpires to decide where the runners would go. Peraza's at second base with 2 men out. Hamilton hit that ball.
That's a good point, and the umpires have said all along that is the most difficult part of the review process. Foul ball.
The call on the field is confirmed.
Good shot of it right there. It appears you can see a little bit of green. One strike to Hamilton. Cozart on deck. Now no balls, 2 strikes. Leading away out at second base. 2-2. Salas made a terrific play to retire Suarez on the bunt to start the inning. Peraza doubles to right center. Cabrera lines to center, and now it's Hamilton. Foul ball. Down the left field line again by Hamilton, and again it is foul, and again that thing was awfully close. I mean, did that hit about in the same spot?
Sure did.
Wow. Take a look. This one is clearly foul.
Not until you see it in slow-mo.
If that had been closer, Brian Price would have had to ask the umpires if they would have looked at it. He could not simply challenge. Hard hit by Hamilton and a foul ball. Billy hanging in there, 2 balls, 2 strikes after getting down quickly, 0-2.
This is the kind of at bat that we would never see from Billy Hamilton earlier in the season. I mean, he would have had a decision by now.
Ball 3. Laid off that one. Starters are the pitchers of record at this juncture. Jared Weaver on the Angels side. Tim Adelman on the Reds side. Salas trying to save his 6th of the year. Most of this crowd, 33,000 plus, on their feet trying to see the Angels win their 4th in a row. Ball 4, up and in to Hamilton. That's a good plate appearance right there. He really battled against Salas. End result, a walk. 2 on, 2 out for Cozart.
Well, the good news for the Reds is that they're down by 2. The tying run is on first base, and not only is the tying run on first, it's Billy Hamilton on first.
Cozart in this game 0 for 4. Trying to deliver a big hit right here.
Mike Trout in center field looking into the Angels dugout saying, all right, well, where do you want me to play and how deep?
Cozart has power, of course. New career high, 16 home runs. He did that in Arizona. That may be playable for Cron. It's going to be. He makes the catch, and the Angels win it. They won last night big 9-2. A little tougher here tonight. The Angels prevail. Final score, Angels 4 and the Reds 2. The Reds will go at it again tomorrow night here against the Angels, looking for 1 victory in 3 games out here in Anaheim. 4-2 final. The Angels are winner. More in a moment.